and welcome to this interview at FS Expo 2025 from Providence, Rhode Island. I'm here with Mark at DOF Reality. But before we get started, Mark, I just want to say thank you to Meridian GMT for sponsoring FS Elite and FS Expo. Mark, welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
I so much appreciate the invite. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. It truly is.
Before we get started, you've brought some pretty cool kit that's getting a lot of attention this weekend.
It's just like last year. I mean, the doors open and it's just a horde coming to us, and it's been nonstop all morning. The guys didn't want me to even leave, and I'm like, nope, I gotta go. So they'll be anxiously awaiting my return for sure. But yeah, we've got a 6-degree motion platform. So anybody that's just wanting to take motion simulation to the next level, adding motion is the key. Once you've done VR, add motion because it's an unbelievable experience.
So for those viewers that might not have heard of DOF Reality or know a little bit, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the business itself?
Okay, so basically DOF Reality was formed by, co-founded by Igor Domenchek, and he was a guy that wanted to have motion, but at the time, motion platforms were $30,000, $40,000 or up, and he just thought there's got to be a way to build a motion platform that's affordable that the average person can, basically obtain. And so he came up with a system, and our top tier system, actually top of the line, is 10 grand, and that's the best of the best, and they go down. Our most popular systems right around $3,000, and so it's really something. The price of computers and graphics cards these days, it's really no worse than any other piece of tech. And so I started as a customer. I actually found the company and bought my own motion platform, and I fell in love with the experience so much that I started talking about it on my YouTube channel, and they asked if I wanted to start helping them at these expos and stuff. And I'm passionate about the product because it's brought so much to me. The experience has brought so much to me. I want the whole world to know about this possibility and what's possible now in your home sim setup, and DOF Reality totally changed my simming world, and so it's an amazing thing.
Well, that's such a fantastic journey for you to be an original customer.
Yeah.
Then almost be an advocate and an ambassador for the brand and the product, and then join the team.
Yep.
So how long have you been with them?
So technically, I'm actually not employed by DOF, but I do consulting and I do things like this. So I'm still just an enthusiast like many of you out there. But I have gotten more, I've gotten more embedded with them as the years have gone on. It really started last year's Flight Sim Expo when they asked me to help them. And so since then, I've continued to help them marketing-wise and stuff like that. But even if I didn't work with them, I would still be saying the same thing because their systems are just such an amazing experience that don't tell Igor I would do it for free, but I would almost do it for free. So because it adds so much and it's just so cool. So it has been a neat journey, and I've really enjoyed it.
I was very lucky enough to try a motion platform, and you're right. It's almost like the first time you try VR.
Exactly.
It's mind blowing, and then you try VR on a motion platform.
Yep.
It takes things up to the next level.
Yeah.
And you were saying about the entry price point. Certainly makes it easier to argue with a spouse.
Yes.
That you need it.
Get the approval. Well, and the argument I hear the most from people saying, I'm trying to talk my wife into one, is, well, honey, it's cheaper than an airplane. In fact, it's cheaper than the fuel and the maintenance and the insurance on the airplane, not even take the airplane out. So that's the argument I hear out there mostly when they're trying to argue that, hey, I should get one of these. And it's true. I came up through motorsports and motor racing, and it's cheaper than race cars too. And that's really the beauty of these. Obviously, we're here talking about flight sim, but the neat thing about a motion platform, any kind, is they're not just dedicated to flight. You can race on them. You put a steering wheel on and pedals, you can race. If you're into sci-fi, there's a game called Elite Dangerous that's one of the most amazing experiences. It feels like you're in the spaceship out traveling the stars, and you land on a moon and you're driving on these moon surfaces. So it just brings this experience to life. And just like you said, VR takes you to another level. If you've done flat screen and you go to VR, motion adds that same level of experience kind of for the rest of you. So your visuals and all that with VR, but then when you add the motion, it takes the rest of your body and immerses it. And so when you put it all together, it's an unmatched experience. And again, it might not be for everybody, but at least try it. At least know that it's an option, because you won't regret it. If you're into simming like I am, you'll wonder how you went this long without doing it. That was my biggest regret. I'm like, why didn't I do this a lot sooner? Because it just does add so much to it. So it's pretty cool.
And obviously they're large pieces of kit. I've seen much larger.
Yeah. Yep.
How do they come? Do you provide a service that you'll come out and you'll build it for me?
Yeah. Lots of people would like that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of services that actually do that, but you're talking $60,000 and whatever. So again, because our niche is affordability and home use, we don't have that service. We have a great customer service team that we can pretty much help anybody either via phone or email, whatever it is. But yeah, if you want that white glove service, that's when you start talking at $60,000. And so if you're talking about getting into motion for $7,000, there's a little bit that you're going to have to do on your own to make it happen. But we tell everybody our kits are, if you can build a IKEA, something from IKEA, you can pretty much put one of our units together. They come, a lot of it's already assembled. A lot of the technical stuff's already put together. So it's more just kind of putting the framework together. It's almost like putting a static rig together. So if you can handle that and hand mounting, your HOTAS, stuff like that, you can handle one of these. It's really simple. And that was really the design. Again, the affordability was an important thing for DOF Reality. But in addition to that, and what a lot of people don't think about, if you're putting it in a home environment, space is a huge thing. Some of these rigs are huge. They're heavy. Some of them need like a cement, floor to be mounted on. What we did was we designed our units to be the home use in mind. So the size and the footprint fits in a lot more spaces that some of the larger ones don't. The electrical requirements are there for your home use. And then the big one is noise. So if you have a partner, you want these things to be relatively quiet because otherwise you're going to be waking up the whole house.
Yeah.
And so we try to hit all those marks when it comes to a home environment and making motion possible in your home, for whatever, flight, racing, whatever. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah. And, you alluded to the kind of the flexible nature of the platform.
Yep.
And given that you've come from a racing background, on the show floor today, we seem to have not just flight sim hardware elsewhere.
Yeah.
How do you find that blend of simulation in general and your types of customers? Because I think originally everyone presumed that they were very separate.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we got our start in racing. A lot of us were racing enthusiasts from the beginning. And basically what happened is some of us flight simmers tried the units and went, oh, wow, this is amazing. I bought mine originally for racing, and you went, wait, this really works well for flight as well. In fact, in some situations, it works even better. And so, DOF, one of the things that we've really focused on over the last several years, we've taken a real focus on flight itself because there's a lot of things in the units. Like for racing, it's so jarring. It's very frenetic and you're bouncing around. Well, in flight, especially GA, where you're general aviation and you're doing subtle turns, well, we had a thing where the motors were never really built for real smooth turns because in racing, you never had that. So we spent about 2 years and a lot of R&D money and time to actually come up with what we call the extra smoothing gearing that goes on our flight models that smooths all that out. So we've really made an effort in the flight market because we really want everybody to have a wonderful experience, and we want all the flight guys to be happy, just like we want all the race guys to be happy. And so it's real interesting, back to your question about how it's all coming together, and I think that's one of my favorite things is that it's really, really easy, or it can be very easy to do some quick disconnects and slap off a yoke and slap on a steering wheel. Pedals, same thing, you either slap them on and off. I have a set that I just put some chocks in and they're racing, and then I can slide them. And then WinWing, we're partnered with WinWing for this event, and I just got their pedals, and it's cool because they have a drop down pin that locks the sliding. It's even quicker than putting chocks in, and I'm like, okay, this might be my next upgrade because now I can use those as pedals real quick, turn a dial, and I'm sliding. Yeah. So I think those kind of things are happening now that are making it easier to convert from this to that, and so I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. Before we get into more detail of the platform, we're just going to have a little word from one of our sponsors.
We're Honeycomb Aeronautical. 2025 is shaping up to be our most exciting year yet, with bold new launches for the flight sim community. Discover more at flyhoneycomb.com.
And welcome back. I'm still here with Mark. Mark, it's a hardware platform that you've that you've got, but how does it take the data from the sim or the racing and implement bumps,
Yeah.
G-force, all of that stuff? How is it driven from a software point of view?
So this is an interesting question, and we get this a lot. I've had it a few times this morning already. So we'll get somebody to come up and say, hey, I'm a real pilot, and when I go into a bank this way and it doesn't quite have the same stutter or doesn't quite feel right or whatever. And the problem with that is we have no control over the movement of the platform. All we can do is take the software's telemetry, and telemetry is what drives everything. So any piece of software will send out telemetry to the rig, and then we have some software that interprets what it sends and turns it into motion. But there's no standard out there for telemetry. So the problem that we run into is a company may not spend much time developing the telemetry, and their telemetry is just going to be very bad, and it causes really bad motion. It causes it not to feel realistically. Versus you might have somebody like DCS, for example, that really puts a lot of effort into the fidelity of their telemetry, and you get all the jet wash when you're behind a plane, or when you get buffeting when you go too close to a building. So as a motion platform, we don't have a lot of control over the experience itself. It really comes down to getting good software that has good telemetry programmed. And then from there, we can do little tricks. Unfortunately, there are even pieces of software out there that don't even send telemetry, period. And so in those situations, there's nothing to read. And so what we have implemented in our Sim Racing Studio software is the ability to emulate a joystick. And so it cuts out all the extra, like the buffeting and all the things we talked about there. But what it allows you to do is you can have your joystick, and so when you roll it over, it'll roll, and you roll this way, and you pitch, and it even does the yaw. Now that's far more limited than getting all the fidelity of all the extras, but it's enough that it still adds to the experience. So for example, I like to play Star Wars Squadrons, X-Wing. Star Wars is my thing, and that game doesn't have any telemetry. But even just using the joystick and emulating the motion makes you feel like you're flying an X-Wing, which was a 10-year-old's dream back many, many years ago. And so there's a way to always implement the motion. Some of it's just better than others, and it all depends on really the software side and how much time the developers put into it.
Looking back over the last 10 years, is it surprising how far we've come?
No, not at all. I totally expect not. So here, I was thinking about this, and just to give you a little sense, so I started doing flight sims back in the early 80s when I was a teenager. I mean, my first flight sim, I think, was Flight Simulator 2, and that was back when we had, I think it was a frame every 5 seconds, and it was wireframe and all that. And I would say in these last 10 years, the last 10 years have probably been the most consequential in the development of flight sim, because about 10 years ago was right when we had our Oculus DK kits, and the Vive Pro, the original Vive Pro, was just about to be released in the market. And when you added VR took it to a whole nother level. And I think VR, more than any other technology, you could argue HOTAS and joysticks, but VR was the first time it didn't feel like you were flying a plane, you were flying a plane. And that was the difference. It's like, oh, wow, this feels just like I'm a flying plane. No, you put on VR and it's like, I'm in this plane. I am flying this plane. And so I think these last 10 years have been the most consequential, with the improvements in video cards and the technology being able to drive the virtual reality headsets, being able to get smooth frame rates relatively, I think these last 10 years have probably been the most impactful in flight simming. And it's really interesting. So I'll tell you a little story. So we were actually exhibitors at Sun and Fun, which is an air show. It's not just sim enthusiasts, but it's actual pilots that fly in, and it's a full-on air show. And it was really interesting to me because we always got the same kind of thing. We would get these pilots that would walk in, and they'd bring their kids and their families that wanted to try the game. And so they'd fly in, and so I'd be, their son or daughter would be flying the sim, and I'd kind of be, well, do you do flight sims? So like, no, I'm a real pilot. That's kind of video gaming. And I'm like, well, you really should try where it's at, because we had virtual reality, we had force feedback sticks, and we had the whole thing. And you could see they were kind of like, I'm not wasting my time, but I would say, well, you at least should try it. And there wasn't a single time that I put a real pilot in there that they were in, yeah, this isn't good. They would generally stay in there 20 minutes or as long as I'd let them stay. And they're in VR, and they don't realize I see the smile on their face. And they'd get out, and every one of them, when they got out, real pilots were like, that actually felt pretty real. And so it was really cool to see these people that were inherently skeptical about flight simming because they're real pilots. And kudos, I'm not discounting that because it's hard to be a real pilot. I didn't even get to do that. But to see that skepticism, and they're so sure that it's just a video game, and they get in and they're flying and they're going, okay,
like that.
yeah. And you see, and the smile on their face, that alone was all I need to know. So that was really kind of a sentimental moment for me where I really was like, okay, we're getting there. You know, when you've got these real pilots and they're going, okay, yeah, this is getting close. That means if you've ever had any interest, any interest in flight simming, now there's never been a better time to get into it ever. Like, just be thankful that you're alive today when we have all this technology at our fingertips and relatively affordable when you think about how much these $1 million simulators used to be for military, and they weren't even a quarter as good as what we have now. So if you've ever had an interest in flying or simming, this is the best time to ever get into it, because it's a fantastic hobby. And again, the community on top of it, it's a fantastic community, and the Flight Sim Expo is a perfect example of that. So it's just been really cool, and I'm proud to say I'm a flight simmer for sure.
Yeah. So we've never had more choice for hardware than we do now.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to be in sort of the next 10 years? Because we're as close as I thought we'd ever get, and I'm still way further than I'd ever expected. What else can we do to bridge that gap?
I think where we're going to get to, obviously, the mixed reality. And I haven't got a chance to go over to Dogfight Dynamics yet, but they've got a demo that's a mixed reality experience where they've got an actual mocked up cockpit that you will see through the pass-through cameras, and you'll see your hands doing all the switches, and then everything outside of the cockpit is virtual. And so it's a combination of the virtual and the real coming together. And so I think that's what you're going to probably see more of in the near term. I think long term, the problem with that is obviously you're dedicated to one flight. Like if you're a Cessna, you're going to have a Cessna. You're not going to be flying an F-14. If you're a fighter, I love F-14s, I love F-18s. I'm recently trying to learn to fly the Apache. Those are very distinct cockpits. And so you're kind of, if you build a one-to-one cockpit, you're locked in. I think what you're going to see in the future, if I had to look into my crystal ball, I would say you're probably going to see some more tactile gloves. We already have hand tracking and stuff like that, but I think you're going to get tactile gloves that when you reach out to touch a button, you'll actually feel that. And I think if we can get to where you're doing, everything's virtual in the cockpit and you're able to touch things and get that tactile feedback, because now I can fly the Apache, and then when I get bored with that, flip a switch and I'm in an F-18. And the controls and everything will be there. I won't be pulling panels loose, I won't be doing anything. So I think you're going to have your generic HOTAS, hands-on stick, all that. And then I think for controls, hopefully we're going to get to where we have tactile feedback.
Wearables.
Wearables and haptics and all that. Yeah. So it'll bring that together. Again, I see the XR as being an amazing thing, but again, then you're limited. Unless you can build 5 different, cockpits in your house, and I couldn't even afford to build one. So I think it's going to bring in more of the VR so that you have that flexibility and versatility, and couple that with the latest technology to give you the experience in whatever aircraft you decide you want to fly. Yeah. That's what I hope happens anyways. We'll see.
Yeah, well, either way, I think we're along for the ride.
I'm in. I'm bought in, man. I'm in for the duration. So wherever this hobby goes, I want to be at Flight Sim Expos from here on out. I absolutely love this community. I love what you guys do. Everybody does such a great job putting this together, and it's a real treat to be here. So again, I just love being part of it, and I'm humbled all the time. Again, my YouTube channel has made me pseudo famous. I still have a hard time, but it still amazes me when people come, hey, I see you on YouTube. And it's still, I really have to take a step back, and it just is humbling, because when I started, I didn't think anybody would even watch mine. In fact, I started to kind of prove a friend of mine wrong that said, you should start a channel. I went, no, nobody's gonna watch me. And he was right, I was wrong. But when you meet people, they're like, I watch your channel. Hey, you helped me out. It's so humbling to know that through this internet, this medium we have, we can talk, communicate, and share this experience with the world, literally the world, the whole world. And so again, it's a great time to be alive for sure.
So just to put one more thing out into the universe.
Sure.
What aircraft has not been represented in the sim that you'd love to see?
Oh boy. So the F-18 is my baby. So that's there. So DCS, when they announced that was the longest wait for me, was for the F-18 to come out. Boy, I don't know. I'm pretty happy. DCS, I want them to get the F4 out, but I want the naval variant because I'm a carry ops guy. I love carry ops. So if I had my way, I would like a Navy variant F4. That would be what I would like to see. And then obviously the F-22 would be just cool. So, but I'm pretty happy, I'm pretty happy with what they got. And so if they don't do anything, I'm content. I got things to fly. So I'm pretty pleased.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate you. And thank you to you for watching. But for more interviews, look out for FS Elite.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it.
We are Honeycomb Aeronautical. We build flight controls that bring the sky within reach. This year, we're excited to bring you the all-new Foxtrot Aviation Stick, the precision-engineered Sierra TPM module, and our new light range for entry-level simmers. Plus, here's a sneak peek of our upcoming Foxtrot takeoff kit, an Echo Aviation controller. Discover more at flyhoneycomb.com.
Thanks for watching. If you want more of our coverage of Flight Sim Expo 2025, click on these videos.